We're talking with Tom DeWees, American Policy Center and editor of the DeWees Report. Tell me a little bit about that DeWees Report. What do you have in it? It's a weekly or a monthly report, Tom?
It's a monthly report, and I've been putting it out for about 17 years now, and it covers all these same issues. We've reported extensively on sustainable development and Agenda 21. We talk about other issues dealing with the UN. We talk about education issues, the restructuring of our education system. We've done extensive reports on the creation of an international ID card and surveillance society, all those kinds of things. So sometimes we have humor, and sometimes we have a lot of details that you don't hear anywhere else. What I try to do, I work with a lot of people who are very intelligent, very deep researchers who really aren't able to write things so the average guy can understand, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely.
And I take their stuff and kind of put it in English so the average guy can understand it, and that's what the DeWees Report is, basically.
That's great, and that's DeWeese Report, the DeWees Report. Your American Policy Center also has a website, AmericanPolicy.org, for those of you who want to follow up on our talk today with Tom DeWees. We're talking about sustainable development. The three primary development goals are to step-by-step abolish private property primarily through the implementation of the Wildlands Project and smart growth, the education of youth to prepare them for global citizenship, and the control and ultimate reduction of human population. I want to talk to you about ICLEI, the International Council for Local Environmental Initiatives. Is that ICLEI? How do they pronounce it? Or ICLEI? What is it?
ICLEI is the way.
Yeah, and it is icky as well, isn't it?
That's what that always makes me remember it. Yeah.
As a matter of fact, Pinellas County here is one of the 544 American cities in which ICLEI is being paid with tax dollars from city councils to implement and enforce sustainable development. So, comment on that and what ICLEI is doing throughout the country, Tom.
Yeah, actually, they're up to over 600 cities now.
Oh boy!
And it's hard to keep track because they keep changing the list. If we start calling attention to them in a particular community, they'll remove them from their website. But
wow.
ICLEI helped write Agenda 21 back in 1992 and then made it their mission to move into local communities to begin to put these programs in place. The city council or county commissioners will pay them dues, and they'll bring in staff, they'll bring in software, they'll bring in research, and set goals, write legislation, and do all the work for the community, for the city councils, and then they put that in place, and that's they're getting everybody into a uniform situation. ICLEI goes around the world doing this kind of thing, and the interesting thing is, if there's anything positive about this at all, as you mentioned, when you start mentioning UN, you go into your city council and say you're implementing United Nations programs, and they, of course, laugh you out of the room and say, no, this is all locally developed. We all thought of this ourselves. Mm-hmm. Well, if ICLEI is in the community, all you've got to do is print out the homepage of their website, ICLEI.org, and it has everything in there you want to know about the UN movement and so forth, because they're part of it. So what I'm encouraging people to do is go into their city councils, and if they start deriding them for saying this is United Nations stuff, say, hey, look, this organization that you are paying dues to are the ones involved in this. I'm just the one rude enough to point it out. They're the ones saying this is all United Nations, so it makes it a little easier to go after it that way. But let me give you this one quote that I think all you need to know about ICLEI and sustainable development. Mm-hmm. Harvey Reuven, who is the vice chairman of ICLEI, said, individual rights will have to take a back seat to the collective in the process of implementing sustainable development.
Wow.
What more do you need to know?
Yeah, that's plenty right there. Wow. Yeah. ICLEI, and that's ICLEI for those of us in Pinellas and Hillsborough County. Go to those county commission meetings when these things are starting to come up. Of course, the county commissions, they're happy that somebody else does the work for them. Unfortunately, it's the wrong work. It's the liberal work. It's the controlling work of the undermining of our country in this process. As we continue on in this sustainable idea, it looks like I have Agenda 21 with the sustainable communities. In 1992, the UN Charter was established for Agenda 21, and then there's the smart growth collectivism. Let's go into that a little bit about this smart growth and how they plan on overtaking our property. Life, liberty, and property that we've had in the Constitution, in the Declaration of Independence, and in our founding fathers' Federalist Papers. Property was important to us, personal property, and they're trying to take over. It's called a smart growth collectivism. Let's talk about that for a while, Tom.
Let me break it down this way. There are what I call a four-part process that leads to the total implementation of Agenda 21 Sustainable Development. And smart growth is one. The Wildlands Project you mentioned earlier is a second one. The public-private partnerships is a third, and the fourth is the stakeholders councils that changes your government. So you're involved with your government, changing that. You're changing how business operates. You're changing how your community operates. You're changing how the rural areas operate. Those are the four things. First of all, with the Wildlands Project, they literally call for, the word they use is rewilding 50% of all the land in every state, away from the way, what they call the horrors of the 20th century's Industrial Revolution, the thing that gave us indoor plumbing and electric. So, what they do in this, the rewilding of the Wildlands Project, which is a major part of this, the Biodiversity Treaty is the official document that puts this in place, literally making it impossible for ranchers, farmers, people in the timber industry, the mining industry to do their jobs. They are cutting off towns. They are, if you cut off the mining or the timber industry, that may shut down the mill that runs the town. People can't live there, so what do? Well, they leave the land and they move into the cities. When they move into the cities, that's where the smart growth comes into place.
Yes, right.
What they literally do is, well, not literally, but figuratively, they draw a circle around the community, and they say anything outside of this area we will not develop. They call it urban sprawl. I call it people's homes, but
that's right.
It's urban sprawl. And they paint this horrible picture of that we've got to keep everybody right here in the city. We've got to cut down on. Of course, now you've got a limited amount of space in the city because they've artificially made it that way. So you've got to have. You can't have cars or a lot less cars. They want you to get into public transportation, and the cost of everything goes up. The cost of property, because now you've got a lot less of it. A lot of sustainable development plans. If you've seen these neighborhoods where you've got homes with yards about 3 feet wide, that's sustainable development. And a lot of people blame the developers, saying, "Oh, they're just greedy, trying to make more money off a little piece of land by selling more houses." That's not true. The developers have been told that they have to build the houses that way, and that's part of this process. Another part of how they would like to have development done is that you wouldn't have suburban housing. You would have high-rises, and on the bottom floor would be stores. The middle floors would be offices, and the top floor would be where you live. And the only time you ever touch the ground is to go out to the park that they provided across the street, and maybe you can get your feet in there and walk in some grass. This is sustainable development planning, and and that's in the Smart Growth Program. One of the things they're doing to help implement this now is, in fact, I've got documents right from the town I live in, Warrenton, Virginia. It talks about ICLEI being involved, and they talk about energy audits. You may have heard about this.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
What this means is a bureaucrat is going to come into your home and do an audit of your energy use. They're going to find out how energy efficient your home is. And what that means is that they will set standards that you've got to meet these standards.
Yes.
And to achieve that, to comply, you may have to put new windows in your home. You may have to put a new roof on your home. You may have to put new energy-efficient appliances in your home. Now you say, well, that's good. That cuts back on my energy costs. And if you do it for that reason, you do it voluntarily, there's nothing wrong with that. But they will come in and tell you that you have to do this in order to comply. If you do not comply, then you may not be able to sell your home if you want to put it on the market, or they will fine you for not meeting it. And they did this in Oakland, California, and the average cost of the homes in Oakland, California to comply was $35,000.
I believe it. I really do believe it, Tom. That's exact. And they've done energy audits in my home too. And I was wondering, why in the world are they doing this? And it comes out so innocent and so suggestive that voluntary. And yet, you want to sell your house, there are some limitations for selling your house. Tom, we're going to take a break right now, but we're going to come back for our final thoughts with Tom DeWees and this sustainable development, and we're going to talk about some of the 115, not all of them, of course, 115 different and very specific programs designed to facilitate and to force the transition of this sustainable development. Welcome back to Patriots Inc., Writing the Right. I'm Glenn Pav, your host, and we've been listening to a man of 16 years of research, Tom DeWees, on Sustainable Development Agenda 21. Tom, the time has flown by so fast. We only have about 5 minutes left to share together on this very vital subject. But this is not the end for me. It's just the beginning for me of my awareness. 115 different programs to facilitate this sustainable development. Comment about this and how it's widespread, please.
Well, again, it involves every aspect of your life. They will use programs to control water. That's a major one. You may find they want to put a meter on your well if you're on a well, cutting back on the energy in your home. They're moving now, particularly in California, to put these what they call smart meters in your home that controls the energy that you use. It controls your thermostat, whether you're cold or not. You may have to take cold showers. You may have to shiver through the winter. Another thing they use that a lot of people don't realize is historic preservation as an excuse to lock away land.
Yes.
And you know, you go into towns today, you'll see these signs about their historic downtown, and you maybe scratch your head thinking, did anything historic ever happen here? Well, they got a grant from the federal government that says it did, and that means that they've got the power to control any kind of development that you do downtown. Anytime, you know, it has to do with materials you can use and that sort of thing. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. All the programs, wetlands is another one that they use to lock away the land. There are places in this country where it rains once a year and they have a mud puddle and they've declared it a wetlands and won't let you do any development there. Any excuse they can use to lock away the land and control its use.
Right, and from agriculture to biodiversity and the ecosystem management to education to energy and housing, population, public health, resources and recycling, transportation, sustainable economic development, 115 different ones, just a plethora of ones, unbelievable. And Agenda 21 is mandating that there is to be no ownership of private property worldwide. And that's what they're doing by expanding these no-touch zones, if you will. The UN believes that all land, watershed systems, natural resources must be owned and administered by the government, which is just totally opposite of our Constitution, of our Americanism, and so forth. Yeah,
they cut across state lines. This is one of the things I wanted to point out. I'll quickly do this.
We got 1 minute.
Okay, I talked about the stakeholder councils and so forth. What they're doing is setting up non-elected boards, councils, regional governments, cutting across borders, county lines and community lines, where these non-elected boards are making the policy. Now your elected officials hide behind that, and you can't get any kind of satisfaction. You can't protest. You can't talk to anybody who will listen to you, and it's all done by a consensus process, and you're not part of the consensus, and that's how they're implementing this step by step by step.
So the answer is local involvement by us, getting into the commissions, finding out what these things are, and stopping ICLEI as well as others in promoting and controlling these things, right?
Absolutely. It's on the local level that this stuff is being implemented, and that's where we can stop it.
Okay, and that's where we are. Patriots Inc. is joining all others against Agenda 21 in our area with many of the councils that we have, many of the areas of school board and county commissions as well. Tom DeWees, American Policy Center, thank you so much for joining us today on Patriots Inc. Writing the Right.
Hey, it's been been a pleasure. Thank you.
God bless you, and may God bless your family as you continue 17 more years, we hope, with American conservatism. And you can reach him out at AmericanPolicy.org for your information.